120 like that.
अच्छा.
Sir, we'll start, sir.
Okay, as you like.
Let me introduce, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, my heartily welcome to all of you to this forum of Meet the Expert. Let us discuss biodiversity. It's been a long journey. We are continuing this Friday forum weekly, and weekly every week we are inviting very eminent persons from their own field, and they are enriching our knowledge on biodiversity and its conservation. We used to discuss biodiversity on many aspects, and we are fortunate that with us today one of the best available experts from Odisha, who has done lots of work for the biodiversity and wildlife conservation of Odisha with us, Dr. Lala Ashwini Kumar Singh. Sir, welcome you to the forum. My heartily welcome to you on behalf of Zoological Survey of India and Estuarine Biological Regional Center. Welcome, sir. I welcome some eminent personalities whom I can see: Dr. J.K. Panigrai sir, Dr. Kaur sir, Sudhakar Kaur sir, Dr. Jagdish Satre, and Dr. Anup Naik sir. I welcome you all to this forum. I welcome all the participants to this forum of Meet the Expert. Let us discuss biodiversity. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Singh to this forum. Dr. Singh is having a lifelong wildlife research experience. After post-graduation from Utkal University in 1974, he completed his PhD in the year 1978. While working on his thesis under Gharial Research and Conservation Unit, Satkosia. Over the span of 45 years, Dr. Singh has delivered volumes of research-based knowledge, techniques, training materials, most of which are now available online for improving the conservation and management in the projects of crocodile, tiger, and elephant. Besides his studies on chameleons, Thalaputa gecko, and fauna of higher canopy of forest of Odisha are pathbreaking for the field of zoologist. Dr. Singh is a member of IUCN ICC Conservation Planning Specialist Group for about 35 years. In the year 2013, he was honored with the Odisha State Award of Biju Patnaik Prize for Wildlife Conservation, which is one of the most prestigious award in the field of wildlife conservation in Odisha. Dr. Singh did pioneer work on captive rearing and population studies of Gharial Magar crocodile in Odisha. The radio tracking of restocked gharials in National Chambal Sanctuary by him is considered by Wildlife Institute of India as the first such proper study on Indian wildlife. Dr. Singh has refined and simplified the techniques interface in tiger tracking that conducted with staff and local people of grassroots level in the state of Odisha. In the 1999 book Born Black by Singh on color possibilities in tiger worldwide has emerged from pursuing instances of melanistic tiger from Similpal, their conservation biological implications, the necessity to maintain gene pools by expanding conservation landscape linking tiger elephant corridor, etc. WWF India Tiger Conservation Program has felicitated Dr. Singh for his innovative and significant contribution in tiger conservation. They published and distributed his work on tiger tracking and tiger color variations. At Similpal, Dr. Singh prepared the Project Elephant scheme for Odisha, the first for the country in 1989. In order to address the issues relating to human-elephant conflict, the scheme conceptualized elephant reserves and corridors linking tiger landscapes. He has also shown the important impact of elephant movement across interstate border and preparation of needed for precautionary principle. The project is an important variable national project for elephant conservation, and to the Dr. Singh's experience is unmatchable. And if I'll go on speaking about Dr. Singh's achievements, it's really tough to describe within 3 minutes. So, with his immense experience, immense expertise, I request Dr. Singh to enlighten the forum on the topic of wildlife conservation, contribution from Odisha to the national project. I think no one can better speak this on this topic than Dr. Singh. Sir, I am handing over you the forum. The forum is all yours. Please go ahead, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Anil. Thank you for inviting me on behalf of Zoological Society of India. It is really difficult to tell 45 years experience in 45 minutes. But so straight away, let us go to the topic. Before I start, I remember and recall three persons. First is Charles Darwin.
Sir, just
Who said?
sir, your slides are not complete. It's half visible, sir.
Half visible, okay.
Left side is not visible.
Okay. Now?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, visible.
I think we'll keep it like this. So, I recall three persons. First is Charles Darwin. He said that microscope was not needed to make groundbreaking discoveries. Most complex processes could be, in fact, be seen with naked eyes. And Dr. Bustard, when we were together at Tikarpada and he was guiding the crocodile project, my colleague Dr. Sudhakar Kar is also here. He said that for success in conservation, research must go hand in hand. And he told me that you are working with facilities that is 1/3 of a British research fellow. He says British research scholar, and 1/5 or 1/8 of an American researcher. So with that, we started 45 years back or more than long before that. And Professor Basant Kumar Behura was saying, observations without publication is meaningless. So this is the background with which we started. And Odisha has a very long history. If you go to the caves or the temples, you will find scriptures, sculptures, which describes the contributions to wildlife towards or teachings about wildlife conservation. Now we will talk about the modern times. And in that, from 1960s onwards, Odisha has been contributing to wildlife conservation at the national scenario. And I have been in the scene for the last 45 years, as I said, from 1975, working with concerned individuals, working for research knowledge, developing simple workable techniques which the grassroots level people, staff, they can use it, and giving training at various levels. So these have been used for stimulating national level thinking in the past, particularly during 1970s to 2000. I don't know after that, but definitely this was because officials from the center were visiting us regularly, taking stock of the things, getting apprised about whole affairs, and appreciating, suggesting all these things. So I can vouch for it that Odisha was definitely giving its outputs for national thinking. So for the last 70 years practically, from 1952 onwards, this has been a course of action for preventing extinctions through 70 years. 1952, the Indian Board for Wildlife was constituted under Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperation. At that time, they were looking after the wildlife affairs. That was for advisory role and policy making. Then from that time onwards, the Wildlife Week started to be celebrated, okay, I would say observed, for creating awareness and support of the people. Then from 1972, the Wildlife Protection Act came. Then countrywide tiger data were collected. Project Tiger was launched in 1973. All India Crocodile Survey was undertaken in 1974. Crocodile Project was launched in 1975. First Wildlife Action Plan for the country was prepared in 1982. Then Ministry of Environment and Forest constituted in 1985. And the elephant conservation actions were first taken in the country in Odisha state in 1989, and I was fortunate to draft it. 1991-92, it was launched in the country, national level. 1993, when the Wildlife Act was revised, amended, so it included the aspects for zoo management. Central Zoo Authority was constituted. 2002 National Biodiversity Act was enacted. 2006, it was like the second phase of Project Tiger. National Tiger Conservation Authority was constituted when the Wildlife Act was revised in that year. Then 2010 Green Tribunal, 2014 Ministry of Environment and Forest with appended tag of climate change. So these are just some of the main highlights, but there are a lot of other things, ancillary things. So it has been a long road for preventing extinctions, and particularly during the last 70 years. So as you must have noticed, just 2 species surveys in 1970s in the country have clicked the entire process. 1952, okay, IBWL was formed, Indian Board for Wildlife was constituted, but in 1970s, All India survey for 2 species. One was for tiger, 1972, that led to the starting of Project Tiger in 73 with in situ approach, and 1974 was All India's crocodile survey with FAO UNDP assistance, after which the 1975 crocodile breeding and management project was started with approaches under in situ as well as ex situ. Then training aspect. From 1960s, one great Odia actually launched it. He was in Forest Research Institute as senior research officer in Dehradun, and his idea was implemented at that time for a 9-month course in wildlife research and management, and the person is no other than Saroj Raj Chaudhary, who later posthumously got Padma Shri. Before that, he was field director of Simlipal Tiger Reserve, and we will know a little more about him later on. Then the second stage of training in wildlife was during 1978 to 82 through CCBMTI at Hyderabad. CCBMTI is Central Crocodile Breeding and Management Training Institute, okay, of which I had the privilege of remaining in charge for some time. In fact, from 1981 onwards, I was that side. And from 1986, when the Wildlife Institute of India came up, it was practically the merger of the upper two, the FRI unit of wildlife education and the Hyderabad unit of Crocodile Institute. So then training was also given at all the project sites of Tiger Project, Crocodile Project, or the wetland other projects. So this is how, and in all these, Odisha has been leading, because all the projects, whenever started in India or before that, it has been started in Odisha as well. When the Wildlife Act was enacted 1972, Odisha's wildlife rule came up in 1974 August, and projects were simultaneously national level and state level. So what lesson actually we gave from Odisha before that? Lessons from protected areas as measures to success. See, today we see tigers, elephants, crocodiles, or other associates just because we have taken some right step at the right time. Today, the national protected areas are constituted under the provisions of the Wildlife Protection Act. They are of 4 different types: national parks, sanctuaries, conservation reserves, community reserves. Whatever you hear about tiger reserve or elephant reserve, they are actually not, they were not recognized under Wildlife Act earlier. Only from 2006, tiger reserves have been recognized as sanctuaries. Anyway, today 101 national parks extending over 1.23% of the entire geographical area of the country. Sanctuaries 553, over 3.64% of the geographical area. And there are 86 conservation reserves, 163 community reserves. So I am not going in details into that. And there is a list of schedules of animals. And one big achievement is that while this protected area number has increased, no species has gone to entire extinction after the 1972 Wildlife Act, and all these activities have been started. But local extinctions have been there. But India is doing amidst all these people's growth, developmental activities, meeting to the demands of the people for house, road, rail, electricity, all these things. We are still conserving the wildlife. We are still able to see the animals which we used to see 70 years back. And we are also showing light to the entire globe. That's a great thing. And we are from Odisha, we are a part of it. Not only part, we are leaders in it in many respects. Let us see what we learned from peer network in Odisha. See, in Odisha today there are 19 sanctuaries. The first 3 sanctuaries were declared because of crocodile conservation. In 1975, Bhitarkanika Sanctuary, that came up for saltwater crocodile conservation. And the 2 other areas are Satkosia Gar Sanctuary in 1976, then Hadgad Sanctuary, that was for magar conservation, but Similipal actually took over. So this graph actually is a very encouraging and also alarming. If you notice from 1975 onwards till 1988, it has been a steep rise in declaration of the number of sanctuaries. But 9 years gap, no sanctuary, no area could be identified until Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary was declared. Then 14 years gap, 2011, Kapilas Wildlife Sanctuary was declared. So overall, the lesson is that let us not go on declaring sanctuaries. Let us keep sanctuaries as sanctities, units of sanctities for wildlife survival and propagations with people's cooperation. So that has been the great lesson which has been transmitted to the entire country. And now also there are instances, some of the states are denotifying sanctuaries. Some of them are reducing the size. Anyway, so overall it doesn't matter. They will be managed as conservation reserve or community reserve. But overall lesson is that let us manage, create only that many sanctuaries which we can manage as per the provisions of the law. So from 2011, 9 years, there has been no other sanctuary declaration because we are finding it difficult to identify a place which can qualify to be a sanctuary. And in future, human component is to be an integrated part of the sanctuary management. This is a great lesson. Okay, in Odisha, there are other biodiversity areas like Biosphere Reserve, its transitional zones, Elephant Reserve, the corridors, then proposed conservation reserves and community reserves. Conservation reserve near Simlipal, Hadgad, Kuldia, then community reserves, Bhetnoi for Black Buck, then joint forest management areas, community forest management areas. They are very good for biodiversity and biodiversity regeneration. Then turtle nesting areas outside turtle sanctuaries, they have been identified with people's cooperation, people's involvement. It is all going on. And that is the only project, big turtle project of the country. Then there are other areas where more than 4 tigers are there in the state. and they deserve attention. Just forget about the camera trap thing. I'll talk about that. Forget for the moment. Wetlands outside Ramsar site also are there. Two Ramsar sites we have, Bhitarkanika and Chilka. Then below ground habitats are also there, providing protection to animal species like pangolins. Then urban biodiversity is also getting attention. And in India, we have 18 biosphere reserves in 15 states, 16 states having 37 Ramsar sites. Then important coastal and marine biodiversity areas, important bird areas, natural world heritage sites, key biodiversity areas, sacred groups like this. And the zoos and biological parks are also serving a great deal in wildlife conservation. And we have one of the best zoos, one of the best biological parks rather of the country, A-class zoo, Nandankanan. So with this background, we move on to the projects and other aspects of wildlife conservation and how we have contributed from Odisha. So first, Project Tiger on preventing extinction of. Here, the legendary person, Mr. Saroj Raj Chaudhary with his Khairi. So in 1972, it was a remarkable year. It is like saying something new happened, something new for the entire wildlife conservation scenario. Nobody knew how to count tigers. Everybody was saying that, okay, tiger population is decreasing. But he just gave a simple instrument called Tiger Tracer, by which we can record the presence of tiger and bring back the signage to analysis room and deduce what is there. And so 1973, in 1972, some 1870 tigers were estimated. 1973 Project Tiger launched in 9 tiger reserves, 9 states, over 16,000 square kilometers. Best habitats were covered from top to bottom, from north to south. And Similipal was one of the first 8 tiger reserves. And okay, today we have 50 tiger reserves over 71,000 square kilometers. Last 1 year was very significant for tiger. 2019 Global Tiger Day, Prime Minister released 2018 tiger population book. 70% of the tiger population are in India. 2020 Global Tiger Day, the ministry dedicated the Guinness Book of Records for people of India, where camera trap, the number of people involved, the equipments used, and all this 70% tiger population of world, they constituted it together for this record. And another thing happened is that golden wild tiger was photographed in Kaziranga. Well, all these things, background to these are our own observations in Simlipal. When we have contributed to tiger population estimation, and knowing about that, I will tell you that detail. Golden tiger, okay, tiger color aberration, we knew it from melanistic tiger from 1993, that Born Black book published by WWF India. But one good thing is, now onwards, for last few months, we have been noticing a rise in reports about record of tiger and leopard in color other than the normal. Anyway, this is regarding the tiger status, that shaded person is only ideal for future, and wonderful success for Indian conservation effort. But this has been a very combined effort from all over the country, all people, and Odisha has definitely given a lot of information. So in 1996, when the wild tiger population was from 4,600 at least, and India was having at least 2,500, that time onwards, it has gone up now. world population is not known because but India is actually very religiously does its census programs, and there are some defaulting countries or reports are not coming, but we can say that about 5,000 or something like that tiger population is there all over the world. So it has been a journey of 70 years. But where and how did we start? So I told you about the Odia person, and I say that he is the father of wildlife education in independent India. This is the tiger tracer, simple equipment, a piece of glass with a small wooden frame. And then for me, in 1990s, okay, it was an opportunity to standardize it, to refine the technique. Census season was changed from summer to winter. Census units, census routes, census PIPs, distinguishing male, female, left from right, front from hind, tiger cub from leopard, adult, territories of mother cub and male tiger, developing spatial distribution map. All these things were done in 1990s. A lot of improvement, and so this is a very full-fledged scientific approach to tiger study. Science, how you do it is necessary. If you do it wrong way, then all the wrong things will come. But it's a very full-fledged study. Tiger has to, after all, walk in the forest. It will not fly. And if it walks, it will leave footprints. If the ground is not good, then prepare pad impression pads or bring plaster casts. Store them, study them, analyze them. So these are some of the developments: front from hind, left from right, male from female. Then transferring the data from tiger tracer to the form. See, these form A, they provide information about the habitat where tiger occurs, about the people, about the forest quality, about water, about cattle, everything. You have found a modified form of this form A, which we were using in later version of tiger monitoring in after 2006. And this is where pugmark, footprint of the tiger, is brought to the analysis room with about 30 other parameters. Some gentlemen in, okay, I will not name it, but they gave a bad name to pugmark census because they asked the wrong persons to test it. That is how it got a bad popularity. So right person doing it rightly, applying this technique, robust scientific technique of pugmark census, gives you the right kind of scientific information for management purpose. No mathematical tiger here. Every tiger is identified, numbered, and told to the manager in terms of its pugmark size, in terms of its stride. Stride may not be possible always, instead of in terms of its movement areas, all these things. So these are the different kinds of data we get. Ultimately, we get a profile of tiger and leopard population, their spatial distribution over the terrain. And it is a method which brings staff from the ground level, from the bottom of the hierarchy of the forest department, up to the principal system together.
Dr. Singh, are you having any slide?
Which one?
Slides are not visible right now.
Not, but it is going.
Yes, it's visible, sir. Please ping it to your screen, sir. Sometimes that happens with.
It is visible. Dr. Singh, it is visible.
It is very small. It is not visible actually.
Make it full screen.
Yeah, it's visible, sir. It's visible.
Probably somebody else has opened presentation. That's why there is interference.
Is it?
No, sir. This is not
Make it
visible.
full screen. Make it full screen.
It is
No,
full
sir.
screen.
It's full screen, but it's not visible, sir. That one was visible.
Probably somebody else has opened presentation. That is the problem.
No, that already I had removed that person who has opened.
Okay then. Okay. So this is how. Already 28 minutes we have passed.
Sir, just do one thing. Remove all the persons. Just we can see each other after the talk. Just make it full screen, sir.
Full screen. Now you are saying not visible.
Full screen. You probably were seeing all the persons. You have to.
Now
Yes. Now, sir, it's fine.
better.
Yes, sir, it's fine.
Okay. So this is for example, this is a map of Simlipal where the male tiger, female tiger, and the cubs are disposed. It is like a mirror telling you the truth. Where there is good habitat, where there is people's presence. So vacant areas, plain areas are readily visible from this. Anyway, I conducting continuous monitoring. We saw that they were moving from north towards south, congregating here. So that means there is some problem. It's a warning to the management. Anyway, this is the Odisha scenario, and all over the state there were tiger dots. And this is Simlipal, this is Satkosia, this is Sunabada bordering Chhattisgarh. So like this. So messages from Pugmark census for Odisha and India is that tiger population was stagnating or declining. And we published a paper with the field director and myself in Indian Forest in 1995 or 6 on that. The population was declining and definitely it will go for very steeply, it will go down from 2008. We predicted it in 1990s, mid 90s, that from 2008 it will decline. So do something. If the human population grows like this, if the management activities continue like this, then definitely doomsday starts coming from 2008, and now the carrying capacity has reached. This is a big lesson. This is two. Tigers had started moving out of the tiger reserve. First, we thought that probably they were probably getting overpopulated in the south. But when we compared the map of from 1987, 89 to end of 2000, saw that they were moving from North Simlipal to South Simlipal. Warning here. Something is wrong. Take care. And leopards were taking over the vacated territories of tiger. The places vacated by tiger, leopards were taking over. And we predicted, we said, okay, this may lead to conflicts in future. And what we see today, leopard is definitely making errors. And the third lesson.
Sorry to intervene. The screen is not yet full. Very small screen. Please do something.
Better?
But it's not at all visible.
It is very
Sir,
small screen.
Sir, please.
Make it full screen.
Sir,
Now this is full screen.
No.
No, sir, you please close again, open it.
It is visible.
It is visible but not full screen.
Okay, namaskar.
Anyway, ଏଗୁଡ଼ା ସବୁ ତ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ କହିଦଉଛି ସେଗୁଡ଼ା ସବୁ.
Okay.
Okay. Just please listen to me intently because some interesting messages are here. Okay, the third message was from the discovery of melanistic tiger in 1993. It took me 6 years to collect information from other places, and with WWF support, the Born Black book that is Born Black Melanistic Tiger in India, that was published. And in that we pointed out that why so many melanistic tigers are visible. All is not well. The landscape level management is necessary. That was pointed out before 99. Okay. So let us see about it. Anyway, just kindly listen to me. On 21st July 1993, a tiger was seen which was having about 70% coloration of black and only 20 to 25, 30% yellow body color. And after 9 years, I came up with the conclusion. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, audible, and in my screen it's completely visible. I don't know what is happening with others. Please ping the presentation to the screen if some problem.
Okay, this is okay. I don't see you, but I can see the full screen. Anyway,
Dr. Singh, continue. It is visible, but in a small screen. Don't worry. You please continue.
from nearly 12 to 15 types of color possibilities. On one side, there are blank white tigers without stripes, then white tigers which know of in Nandankanan, white body with brown stripes, then golden tigers, rufous tigers, then the normal tigers, range of normal tigers. This is how it should be. And then the other colors, blue tigers, melanistic tigers, and black tigers. This is how has been the wildlife, this is how it has been the tiger coloration. Are you able to see this graph?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, then continuing. So, see, color differences. Actually, when our papers got published in Juice Print, Sally Acker, she is no more. She has taken the trouble of putting it over net, and I got some good supplements to my thinking from USA. That color difference doesn't prevent breeding in captivity. And see this white tiger and the golden tiger. Here the range of white tigers. Overall thing is that appearance of the tiger in different color is not a good sign. And this is the what I predicted during 1990s. Now we see in Kaziranga. I said that color aberration must be occurring in all tiger population in all the places. We don't notice them because they are so few, and nature takes to eliminate them so fast that we don't notice them. But luckily in Kaziranga earlier this year, this was photographed. And after that, many more color aberration tiger photographs have come up. Okay, that is some of the lessons, some of the predictions, some of the warnings from through Project Tiger to country. In 1989, we drafted the Elephant Project Plan, designed how elephant reserve should be and how corridors should be, what should be the census procedure. There is no census procedure for elephants. And afterwards, when some indirect methods were recommended to us, they were tested and they were not useful. So anyway, the census procedure which we developed in Simlipal in 1980s, late 80s, that was actually refined and adopted by Government of India and circulated all over the country. So our elephant population is one of the 4 regional populations. We have developed 5 elephant reserves. The Mayurbhanj Elephant Reserve, then Mahanadi Elephant Reserve, the Sambalpur Elephant Reserves, these are 3. This is Brahmani Baitarani Valley Elephant Reserve, and this is South Orissa Elephant Reserve. That the second and fifth, Brahmani Baitarani around Keonjhar and this one around South Orissa, they are yet to be done. There is a misconception among public, industrialists, and even some people in the government administration door about the elephant reserves. Actually, elephant reserves do not have any legal sanctity. They may contain a sanctuary. They contain good habitats, fragmented habitats, corridors, whatever it is. The elephant reserve boundary is just a management purpose thing, and it doesn't provide any legal sanctity to the area. So that was the one good thing over our project elephant working, elephant reserves, corridors, whatever, all these things, steps taken, is that poaching has reduced, but accident has increased due to electrocution, due to railway, and that is a message to the entire country. And the next message which we are giving is that where there is interstate migration, take care of it. This is the interstate, these are areas or forest beats which we have mapped, and this has to be taken care of in future. Whatever was happening, elephant man interface or conflict, whatever you call, that was okay, but now this is going to happen in the coming years because elephants are coming to the state and remaining for a longer time. The elephant occupancy days is increasing. If that means 5 elephants coming for one day and returning to their previous habitat is different. But if 5 elephants come for staying for 5 months, that means 5 into 5, 25 elephant days ecological need has to be provided. And they are coming in hundreds in Nilgiri areas. So overall thing is that let us also, that is one suggestion. These are the elephant reserves and these are the tiger areas. The corridors have to be linked up. Next, what lessons we gave from crocodile? Actually, from crocodiles, we gave everything to the country. We have the 3 species. This is their habitat, gharial, magar, saltwater crocodile. In 1974, gharial was facing imminent extinction. Magar was reducing faster than it could reproduce. The saltwater crocodile was endangered as a species and its habitat was also endangered. The crocodile breeding project started with Government of India, UNDP, FAO, and we have been giving the entire country the guidance because the FAO consultants headquarters was at Tikarpada. So from there, crocodile sanctuaries, they became trendsetter for biodiversity rich wetlands. Rear and release techniques, ex situ as well as in situ approach for quick relief to endangered species. Then post-release monitoring was conducted traditionally in all the habitats, but I had the opportunity to start a field camp in Chambal and do the fast radio tracking work. And interestingly, in Chambal, the work got diversified or multiplied to a multi-species monitoring approach. And in late 80s, you might have heard about Ganga Action Plan, which was having a component called turtle breeding and rearing and releasing them in Ganga to make it clean. That was inspired by our work in Chambal with freshwater turtles of Chambal. In fact, Chambal gives all water to Jamuna. Before confluence, Jamuna is almost a dry river. And Jamuna, after confluence, carries most water to Ganga, because before that, Ganga is also not a very deep water river. Anyway, now we hear about the Namami Gange project. The Honorable Prime Minister has announced about the Dolphin project. So all these are, you can say, are offshoots from crocodile conservation work that started in Orissa, then at the national level in Chambal, and like that. So entire river basin, entire course of the river and the estuary, that is what has been the focus through crocodile project. This is Chambal river. Okay, we catch. Most important thing is that science was very simple. That is why I could get data for more than 30 years. Even if I shifted back to Odisha, but monitored it easily, and with the proforma which were developed, which were given to the staff of National Chambal Sanctuary. This is a map of proposite map of Chambal section, 5 kilometer stretch. On that, while traveling by boat, just mention 5 feet on Gharial, so many, 3 feet, so many, like this. So at the end of first year from 1983, I had gone only for population monitoring, but 10 different studies were going on. Okay, I think I have got only 5, 6, 7 minutes now.
No, sir, please go ahead.
Okay. Then overall, the trend in 30 years has been that the sighting of mugger has increased more than 12 times from just 33 muggers in Chambal, and they have moved downstream. This thing, okay, Chambal is a national example because that is the best habitat for gharial crocodile and a combination of multi-species research. Sighting of gharial has increased, but from 605 it has increased less than twofold. But mugger has increased 12-fold. Mugger has found it more suitable. Sighting of dolphin increased from 45 to 2014 66. So okay, at that time there was no computer. So this is the way I was doing it with letter sets and graphs. The 5 kilometer stretches of Chambal, where gharials were there, where religions were conducted, where dolphins were sighted, all these things. And most important thing is, as we go from upstream to downstream towards Chambal confluence, the sighting of dolphin had increased. So, okay, dolphin sighting has increased is good, but it is not very happy thing because as you go towards the confluence and downstream, human population, fishing activity, all kinds of disturbances increased. So my point is that it is because of research. Remember back what Dr. Bastard said, successful conservation goes hand in hand with research. So because of this kind of data output, we could say that this is happening to gharial population, mugger population, dolphin population. The entire river has to be allowed to be kept in good shape, in its perennial characteristic, in its richness of habitat as with food supply. So this is the dolphin area actually. Here, Jamuna confluence here, and this is the main dolphin area. While 570 kilometer upstream, that is at least 300 kilometer upstream, that is no dolphin. Anyway, mugger crocodile all over the thing, but mugger is a competitor for gharial. That is the problem. And here, again, they are observed more in the downstream. Downstream means towards Jamuna confluence. Why they are moving, although they can stay in little bit of water, why they are coming from upstream towards downstream? This is again a warning signal that something is happening to perennial nature, something is happening to the hydrology of Chambal. So that has to be taken care of. This is the okay, I could do this because of my experience I carried from Mahanadi. In Mahanadi, I was observing besides gharial and mugger, I was also observing the Brahmini ducks, some of the skimmers, some of the freshwater turtles nesting opposite Tikarpada bank. So these things, these messages through these ambassadors have gone to the national level. This is a skimmer population data, and they were also linked with the rainfall data. So reason for this changed spatial distribution is traced to the changes in the hydrological characteristics and sending a warning signal to the department, irrigation department, soil conservation department, forest department, take care of the catchment area. Even for Mahanadi, recently I suggested, take care of the banks of the Mahanadi, take care of the pupil. Don't try to focus now on Gharial of Mahanadi. It's very difficult to bring them back. They may get incidental protection and they may come back. But protect the birds, protect the turtles, take care of the fishing community and others, take cooperation of the people who are living on the banks of the river. Anyway, this is Chambal again, long-term monitoring. Here I want to say that how long-term ecological monitoring has been population in long-term monitoring of population has been possible in Chambal. That is because some permanent research staff were there in Chambal with simple, down-to-earth, usable protocols, proformas, which they can fill up and bring for analysis. That should be there. A simple university project, UGC grant project, or science and technology project for 2-3 years, they are no useful. They are okay, no useful, I will not say, but they are less useful than this. Let us aim for having permanent research structures in all these important areas, which can generate data, guide the management, guide the country's policies for long term. Now we have published 30 years trend for muggers, gharials, dolphins, skimmers, 5 species of storks in Chambal, and now analyzing those of the pelicans and turtles. So there is a need to emphasize with more biodiversity case histories. So climate change is happening. Something is happening. We get some indirect evidences through this kind of long-term studies. Some more case studies have to be developed. And that will be possible only with strong, continuing, sustainable research base. So this is the reverse map, and Government of India has started this river management projects. And this one is actually for Orissa, I should say, one it also here, this river connection projects. Because Bhitarkanika, if the salinity is affected by connecting the rivers, then there will be more human crocodile conflicts. So to sum up, the outputs from Odisha has been for tiger, warnings about population decline, then providing knowledge about the population estimation, which is more robust, and unless the manager knows where are my male tigers, where are my females with young, where are the which are the areas vacated by tigers and being reoccupied by the leopards, how can he know? Statistical tigers, they may give a broad picture for the country which is useful, but manager will not be useful. And most important, the people, public at the grassroots level, they are being involved. That is most important. Cooperation. Second, I will take a sip of water. Yes. We provided the elephant census procedure. See, in our case, males have got tusks, and our focus has to be on the tuskers and the elephant calves. African elephant, both male female have got tusks. They can do aerial census. They can do estimates, density population studies, saying that per square kilometer so many elephants. So all of them will be having tusks. So management attention will be like that. But for us, we need specific detail about the population composition. So let us not blindly follow any imported knowledge, but follow what is developed locally. घर का मुर्गी, अपने खेत का दाल, खेत का चावल, that should be done. Okay, and elephant management areas, elephant reserves, they have to be delineated properly. They should not be misunderstood. So crocodile project lessons, outputs from Odisha projects or the people working from Odisha is that we have given all aspects of grow and release. If you say in 5 years, we can produce thousands of crocodiles, anytime you need. All field techniques we have provided. And now we are saying that multiple species management should be focused. Long-term ecological monitoring should be focused. Because of the crocodile project, mangrove is protected. Because of the crocodile project, the turtle project started. So that has to be thought of. What kind of contribution Odisha has given to the national scenario, to the entire wildlife conservation fraternity. So some of the things, I showed some of the old performance and some of the ideas, some of the warnings which Government of India took very kindly, and they changed their approach in 2006 onwards. So whether these were just coincidences or their outcomes with linkage to our findings and recommendations. If they openly say that, okay, we have taken your findings, we have taken your recommendations, we will feel happy. But anyway, things are going on well with the changes, and our biodiversity, our animals, they are okay. So I should acknowledge one thing. Why I chose this topic is because of Mr. S.S. Srivastava. He was Chief Wildlife Warden one time. He was the field director one time in field director. We worked together a lot. Recently he said, Dr. Singh, presently in ministry, no one is knowing about the work we have done in Odisha. What kind of contribution we have given from Odisha, no one is understanding. No one is knowing it. Do something. So fortunately, just after 2 days, Dr. Anil Mahapatra told me that come and talk something in our special program. I said, okay. Whether this topic will be all right? Nah, yes, sir. Okay then. So thank you that. Many thanks to Government of Odisha, Forest and Forest Department, Government of India, 2 ministries, the old Agriculture and Cooperation Ministry and the recent Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and the Guru of Gurus, S.R. Chaudhary, Professor D.K. Gohira, then Priyankada Hesnadi, UN Dev, Ellen Acharya, Dr. Devagata Swami at Silmipar Tiger Reserve, he was there, and NTCA director, he was there. Okay, 2 minutes still there, I will finish it by that. Dr. Anup Kumar Naik, they have made immense contribution also from their main positions. And Dr. Swami was saying that while being in NCA, he executed proposals for wildlife and elephant bypasses, introduced a stripe app for monitoring patrolling tiger reserves. Dr. Anup Kumar Naik from NTCA, he developed bilateral cooperation with Russia, Bangladesh, Nepal, signed MOUs, adopted a concept called core within core, and tiger occupied areas outside the tiger reserves. They got more attention. I also got inspired by a number of chief wildlife wardens like Suresh Chandra Mahanti, B.K. Patnaik, P.N. Padi, because through discussions. And Saroj Kumar Patnaik, the Jew person, highly respected in the entire country, and a member of the CZA from the beginning for design and master planning the Jews. They have made immense contributions to the country. So finally, again, I remember back to Darwin, microscope was not needed for path-breaking or ground-breaking discoveries. Some naked eyes could do it. So my wish, make science simple, usable at grassroots level, and involve the public. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much for your very elaborative and lucid lecture on the wildlife research of Odisha and contribution of Odisha to the national project. It's really wonderful to hear you on your experience. Whatever you have talked, it's all your experience. I hope the youngsters who are now coming to the wildlife research, they need to know the difficulties on which you people have worked. They need to know the reality of wildlife research in their places where people had started with almost nothing in their hand, and we have achieved the height of unparalleled success in this state. Sir, I sincerely thank you for this very lucid lecture and enlightening us. Now I am requesting all the participants who are there, if they have any questions, please interact with sir, and it will be very nice to interact.
Thanks, Lala, for this excellent talk. Thanks. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a simple question to Dr.
If
Singh.
there's a question, madam.
At the beginning,
Please.
I would like to appreciate for the nice presentation. So, I profusely thank you. A simple question: when we are discussing about tiger conservation in India, and months before the targeted year of 2022, by the year 2020, we achieved the desired number of tigers. But so far, our state is concerned, Odisha is having certain problem. We are just maintaining the status quo. So, what are the hurdles, problems you feel on the way so that we can proceed forward in increasing the number?
So let me tell you some hard truth. Hello. Okay, Dr. Anup Naik, former NTCA director, Dr. Devrata Swami also may be there, former NTCA director. But some hard truth is that, okay, we achieved it much earlier in 20 because before 22 there is no other scope for a second next census. In 20 we had the census results of 2018. That is one thing. Then other question is about Odisha. See, in Odisha, when you can compare two things, why we are doing a census first of all? Why human population census is done? Because we can plan what will be the population growth, what will be the demand for housing, demand for road, demand for vehicular traffic, demand for electrical supply lines, demand for railway lines, all these things. So we should have a good data about the thing. Similarly, a forest or wildlife manager should have a very detailed report about the tiger they have. Not that, see, even, okay, let me tell it frankly, even the 2018 tiger census data have got, say, some 15% or so, 17% statistical tigers. 17% means it becomes 500 tigers. So that is okay for national level planning, but not suitable for micro planning in Simlipal or in Odisha state. For this kind of things, we have to go back to such a method, that scientific method of Pagmar census, in which gives us details about how many males are there, in whose territory how many females are there, and with which female, which cubs are there, how many of this year, how many of previous year, how many of 2-3 years old. All these things mapped in the topo sheets, and they provide mirror image what is happening on the ground. And how can you ask a forest guard to protect a mathematical tiger that has been deduced through statistical applications? In Pagmar census, we used to get thousands of Pagmars, and only after elimination, rigorous elimination. I know DFOs, SCFs who come with the data for analysis, they go disappointed. Sir, you are, आप तो सब काटी दूसरे अपन anyway. So we adopt a method which is friendly, which doesn't deter. See, at live wireless in Simlipal, the staff will be saying to his colleague, "Arey, My tiger has gone to your area today. I have seen the pugbar. Or somebody else tiger has come to my area. Where is that kind of link? Technological advance is good, but let it be research technique. Let us see the limitations it has got for the management. So let us not compare this thing. Odisha has got more tiger than we see. Okay, because the things are um, at some places they are going out of our hand. We see reports about poaching or all these things. But let us adopt a method which will keep the staff glued, attached to the ground, so that we get good, correct information from their own it. Okay, that's all. I think
Sir, I have a question. Can I get in?
Who is speaking?
I am Srinivas Murthy, retired forest officer from Madhya Pradesh.
Please, sir.
Sir, matlab, first of all, I am a fan of you. I should admit it.
Oh, thank you.
I joined Madhya Pradesh as a forest officer in '87,
Okay.
and then we were fans of जो आप एंड देन वहाँ पे जो सिमलीपाल में जो साहब थे, नाम भूल रहा हूँ, जो टाइगर सेंसस को पगमार्क से शुरू किया था. आई एम वेरी सॉरी. हाँ, यस, चौधरी साहब हैं. जी जी. तो एंड सेकंड थिंग सर कि ड्यूरिंग दोस डेज मतलब सिमलीपाल वाज वन ऑफ द एपिटोम ऑफ मतलब टाइगर कंजर्वेशन, जहाँ से सारे शुरू हुआ था. बट नाउ द स्टेटस सिमलीपाल, आई डोंट थिंक मतलब इट्स द सेम थिंग, वन थिंग. एंड सेकंड थिंग, I would like your मतलब जो critical inputs. How come Satkosia can fail?
It was okay.
And then मतलब मेरे कहना यह है कि सतकोशिया नहीं, कहीं पर भी टाइगर इंटरेक्शन करे तो सक्सेस होना चाहिए. So this is my concern. So मतलब ओडिशा की जो सिचुएशन को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए, चूंकि हम लोगों ने वो समय देखा है जब सिमलीपाल में सब कुछ था. अब सिमलीपाल में मतलब जो मेरे पास रिपोर्ट्स है सही नहीं है. तो प्लीज थ्रो सम लाइट एंड देन advise how to move on in a better direction.
Okay, I will tell you that some of my observations, some of my feelings is that, first of all, regarding Simlipal, I would say, I told you one example, 10 o'clock wireless call between the staff. That was the level of attachment between the staff, connecting between each other. That my tiger has gone to area.
Okay.
So that kind of attachment has gone when we moved to equipment oriented thing.
Okay.
A kind of detachment started. हाँ, ये तो कैमरा लगा के चले जाएंगे, 30 दिन के बाद आएंगे, लेके जाएंगे, और they are actually detached, and nobody knew how the analysis was going on. All these things. तो involvement कम हो गया.
Okay.
So it will be a very tough job to bring back that kind of क्या है attachment जो आपस में जो रहता है. अच्छा, second thing regarding translocation, what you said, without people, see, in Satkosia Gar Sanctuary, I would say, Satkosia Gar Sanctuary again is a big lesson for everybody, for the entire country. Madhya Pradesh, it has been good, because okay, Pana I had seen in 1977, 78, I suppose. Datta Sahab had invited me to go through KN Sanctuary, all those things, survey ke liye. Anyway, Madhya Pradesh has a different tradition, and that has been kept because of the field attachments. Here something probably has happened because of that. In Satkosia, I started my career in 1975. From Angul, a bus used to come to Tikarpada. It starts at 4 o'clock, and for 58 kilometers, it was taking at least 3-4 hours. And during that time, during that journey, we used to see tiger, leopard, elephant, bamboo clumps, and some herbivores, all those things.
Okay.
They have disappeared. Okay, now blacktop roads were not there. So many tourist movement were not there. I have done my PhD work with a lantern. So these things have happened. And just one example, I told you about that none of the species from Wildlife Act has become extinct since 1972. What regional extinction has happened? One bright, unfortunate example I will tell you
जी.
is that from 3 kilometers from Tikarpada is a place called Hatibari.
Hmm.
That's a small village of Munda tribes. They were earlier crocodile egg eaters and they were taken in the crocodile project as husbandry assistant and other things.
जी.
So near from Hatibari, there is a road to Majipada on the banks of Mahanadi. And I remember vividly, and because still I'm good at that. So there, Nilgai used to be seen. Okay, you know Nilgai, they will always come to one place for defecating.
जी. जी. जी.
And that is one of the very large animals, mammalians.
जी.
Very large like Sambars and like that. And they have become extinct within our knowledge, within the creation of the sanctuary, because of human population growth. And the tiger translocation thing got opposed by whom? By the people, by the young people who, I must say, that they were not born when the sanctuary was declared in 1976.
Okay.
They have seen the world differently.
जी.
And the report which actually recommended for tiger translocation, it was probably a very immature report and no serious thinking or no matured thinking had gone into it by any matured scientist from Wildlife Institute of India.
Sir.
That must have been the reason. And people are objecting it. And Satkosya definitely has got other kinds of problem. And other kinds of problem in river divides it, and there are open areas in village size has increased. Simple logic: if a village size increases, human use area will increase.
जी.
That means the use area by wildlife will decrease.
जी.
The people of the village who were bringing firewood or other forest products from behind their houses, they started going 500 meters, 100 meters, 1 kilometers, 5 kilometers, like this.
जी.
People who were living there, their grandchildren are born. They are now objecting. They are with mobile phones, transistors, all kinds of things, high school. So the delay we make in one big lesson here.
जी.
The delay we make in translocating people, the tougher it will be. Wildlife conservation. People can remain in one house above another in apartments. Tiger cannot do that.
जी. Excellent.
Okay, sorry. I become emotional when start to talk like this.
No, sir. No one can say these things to anybody. Tiger cannot live into floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor. Excellent, sir.
No,
Thank you.
But nature has done it. I told you now, below ground pangolins are living. On the bushes, khorgos is staying, hares are staying, peacocks are staying, birds are nesting. Up to certain heights, quails are dying there. Certain lizards are there. Then top of the tree canopy, monkeys, giant squirrel. So nature has given the stratification, done the stratification and the animals. But one species cannot stay stratified.
On all the stratifications.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Dr. Singh,
Yes. Next.
I am K. Dayana speaking.
Yes.
I congratulate you for your excellent talk.
Oh, Chirasagar, okay.
I have one question. You have a very vast field experience, and right from since you started your work on wildlife until now, what is the change in attitude of common people living in the fringe of the forest or general public towards wildlife conservation? Your beginning of the work and today's situation.
Okay,
People.
I depicted the picture of Satkosia Girls Sanctuary, they travel by bus. That is one. The people who are in charge of the place, that is the new generation, their attitude. But people can be convinced. But again, people say, we always know that people's memory is short-lived. When we are going for an awareness camp, we talk to them today, they will remember it. They will join us. They will make Halla support. Yes, everything. But if we come back, it all lasts for 7 days, not beyond that. So it has to be, awareness programs have to be very continuous, harping on them if people are there. And my point is that people has to, see, days have gone when people and wildlife can stay together. They have to stay at their own places. If you want sanctuary का मतलब क्या है? अभयारण्य. कहाँ को अभयारण्य दबा? अभय मतलब fearlessness for people or the tiger, the wildlife. Let the sanctity of the sanctuary be maintained. And the core area is like sanctum sanctorum. Jagannath Pindi को समझते जाई करिए. Let the core areas be there. If you consider the entire country, less than 2% is core area. And if 98% is left for people to develop their own population, develop their own amenities, and it is not sufficient, then how can you think of conserving wildlife in 2% core areas of the country? So difficult times are there, but we have to keep on continuing. And entire world actually looks towards us, keeps looking towards us. And whatever we have done during the last 70 years, we cannot give it away like this. It has to be continued. So there will be an end day, but let us delay the end day. Let us delay the end day. Okay, next.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Sir, I am taking one question on behalf of Professor Palita from Central University. I am
please.
taking the question on behalf of him. Why population of gharial is declining?
So you see that non-survival of gharial in Mahanadi, I have given. You see, one thing is that Mahanadi is too. When I saw Chambal, 570 kilometers of the river is sanctuary. Satkosia Girls Sanctuary is Satakos, 14 mile, 22 kilometers. How can it happen? Gharial, which moves unrestricted. We have, all right, deep pool, good food, good sandbank, okay, and good fish population is okay. But it is not enough. These side streams are not perennial. Only one or two near both and some upstream, they may be all right. And gharial is the oldest among the 22 living species of crocodilians. So this one is probably, you say, when the budhapa aasi jaye, probably the senescence, there may be some evolutionary senescence, we never know it. All are not cockroaches. So maybe they are more sensitive to slight change or changes of like that. So gharial has not become extinct, but they have disappeared. But good populations where human disturbance is not there and other habitat conditions are there, they are surviving in Ganges in the upstream. Now Ghagra is doing well, Nepal is doing well. Chambal, the best population. When I had any 5 kilometer stretch of Chambal, in those days you go, 100 gharials you will count. So future of wildlife in India will be like this. We cannot expect that all species will survive in all places. They will be regionally confined. We have to develop like Bhitarkanika, saltwater crocodile conservation in the entire region of India, mainland and the islands. That is the best example. The highest concentration. 7 nests in 1970s to 100 nests in 2000s, 2020. So that is the best example of. So Odisha excels for that saltwater crocodile. Let Chambal excel for Gharial crocodile. There will be Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, there will be contenders for Magar crocodile. Similarly for tiger, okay, let the central India, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, part of Odisha, they will be all right. Gir, lion. So regionally it will happen like that. If you see the old map, tiger was occupying everywhere. But it has become regional. So future ahead it will be like that. Instead of thinking of keeping all species everywhere, we have to think of regional populations and do it in a good way. Okay, next.
Please, if anybody is having any question, go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't get it.
I
Hello?
hope, sir, I hope we have taken almost all questions.
Okay, then that's very good. Thank you. We are now about 80 minutes.
Sir, normally it happens, question hour, sometimes people used to be very enthusiastic. Someone
what-
had asked, Mini Suresh asked, could you please explain about captive breeding?
Captive breeding. Okay. See, that is in ex situ program.
Yes.
See, crocodile conservation program is partly ex situ and partly in situ. In situ is in the nature sanctuary management, sanctuary gharial protection, project protection, all that. But ex situ depends. Why Crocodile Project actually adopted this? See, if you go back to 1970s, government of India thought that okay, foreign exchange is shortage, so let us do crocodile farming and earn some good foreign exchange. A pair of shoes will bring us $700. Handbag will bring another $700 to $800, like that. So quickly, it could be done through captive rearing. That was called grow and release technique. What are the points where crocodile population is getting lost? A crocodile normally lays only once its eggs, say 30-40 eggs on an average. If there are 10 females, then there are some, how many? Thousands of eggs are there. Thousands of crocodiles should be there in a river where there are just 10 breeding females. But why it is not happening? Because the losses are occurring at the stage of egg, at the stage of hatchlings, and until they become about 3 to 4 feet, they don't have any other enemy other than human being and crocodiles. So till that time, we have to do the captive rearing program. So that is called grow and release technique. Eggs are collected before they are predated by predators or egg collecting tribes. Then they are brought and reared, incubated in hatcheries at about 30 plus minus degree temperature and moisture about 7 to 10% by weight. And then we have to act as foster mothers. When the young ones start to hatch, they will call, like this in a chorus, they will be calling. Then slowly bring them out, then put them in humid chambers so that their unobserved yolk is observed. Then take them to rearing stations. Then rearing starts for 1 year. Those which are size setting has to be done. Then health check has to be done. Those which are not able to feed, they will reduce in weight, so they have to be sorted out. Then they have to be force fed. They have to be given medicines. All these kinds of rearing things, and we have achieved nearly 100% hatching and 100% survival in some cases. We recommend that from Tikarpada, we recommend to the country 60% hatching and 60% survival is excellent. Do that. Try to achieve that. So, and after they reach 3 to 4 feet long, then we take them to suitable release sites and release them. Our release has been real successful. It is a supplementation thing. In Mahanadi, I would recommend that release should continue. See, in 1970s, we didn't have the tech. We never knew how big a crocodile will be, what will be its food, how to rear them, all these things. So let us not go back to that stage. Let rearing continue. Let us go on adding to them. Some loss will be there. So let us not go back to 70s. Let us continue it and let it be education program. Government is spending so much of money and for environment, for wildlife, and this will be done. And it is like energy. Nothing is lost. By the way of rearing crocodiles, you are transferring the money to some of the local people, and you are also providing. Suppose when you release, they are dying. Probably they are turtles like that. So you are sustaining the biological cycle. So let these things continue and see these things. They चू चू ये क्या हो गया, अरे बेचारा मर गया, अच्छा ये सब भी बोलते हैं. So all these things, let it continue. We get support of the people. Yeah.
I'm Jagdish Athri.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what is the impact of plastic on the wildlife of Odisha?
Oh, everything. See, even in alligator, see, in captivity, some alligators have been, okay, not in our case, we strictly, we have checked it, but crocodiles have the habit of picking up from the bottom of the pool. They act as hydraulics for them. So some alligators have been found in USA zoos having swallowed, they have died, and when postmortem was done, they had swallowed beer bottles. So plastic actually clogs the alimentary canal, and crocodiles have the habit of picking up from the bottom and throw to something to them. They will snap at it, and they don't have a tongue like ours because they don't talk, they don't chew, they swallow it. So if anything you throw at them, and if they catch it through the mouth, they'll swallow it. Let it be fish or plastic bottle or something. So that kind of danger, any biological hazard, this is talked about a lot, plastic hazard. Okay.
Thank you.
Hope I satisfied you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope we have taken most of the questions by the participants, and we have come to the concluding session of this particular special talk in the eve of Wildlife Week. And we used to have a Friday talk every week. So on behalf of Zoological Survey of India, I would like to thank Dr. Lala A.K. Singh sir. Sir, thank you very much to be with us and enlightening this forum to the greater extent. And we young researchers get inspired always from your talks and always from the way of working you have done. And the day we started working on this field of wildlife or field research in marine, we used to heard your name. It's really great to listen you a few times, and this is one of the enriching fact that you have elaborately discussed the history, genesis of wildlife research in Odisha. And for the youngsters, it's really helpful. So when they used to know the history, they can carry forward. And the difficulties what you people, particularly you, Karasar, and work, we had come to know that from the stories. And now your lecture has enlightened us to the greater extent about your work style and the difficulties you had gone through. So thank you very much for bringing the wildlife research to the forefront.
Okay, I will say something, just one sentence. Thank you for bringing out of me some work for 1.5 hours. A long time, I am talking for a long time.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our Honorable Director, Dr. Kailash Chandra sir, for permitting us to continue this program for a very long period, more than 3 months. I can see many eminent personalities like Professor J.K. Panigrahi sir, Professor Palita sir, Dr. S.K. Kaur sir, Anup Naik sir, Jagdish Atre sir, and everybody, senior persons from Zoological Survey of India, senior scientists. I thank everybody, all the participants for this listening patiently for 1.5 hours. Sir, thank you very much. I thank everybody for be with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I thank all. I think probably I could not have reached so many people from so different places. Even my collaborators here, Rishikesh Sharma is there, Dr. Rishikesh Sharma, and Gopal Sharma, I see the second generation. My guru, Dr. S.N. Patra, he taught me botany in Puri College. So he is here. Panigrahi, Dr. Panigrahi, and many other young people. I see 5 or 6 photographs, so I told you. Okay, thank you all very much. I will look forward to listen to my voice when it is when you upload it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. It was nice talk and very informative, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
So,
sir. Thank you, sir. SN Panigrahi, sir, namaste. I could not see you in the screen. I just heard from sir that you were there. Sir, namaste, sir.
so should we close?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Learning.